We forgot Gibby.
Oh, yeah. Gibby!
Did you guys hear my ribs crack?
iCarly, the Nickelodeon show about a trio of friends running a web show named iCarly that quickly became internet famous, causing them to have to try to balance their normal lives with their web lives. Basically, it's a show about content creators, and boy, hasn't that come full circle. I wonder if anyone got inspired by iCarly to do internet content. Anyways, this show was incredibly popular and is actually returning on Paramount Plus on June 17th, which is, oh, would you look at that? It's almost like I properly timed a video for once. Who would have guessed? Anyone who watches on Patreon a week in advance, ignore this. With the show getting so popular, like seriously, look at the amount of awards it got, 2 games were made for it as well. One of which got a speedrun community in 2018 that is still slowly growing. Check this video out for more on that. Trust me, it is incredibly interesting. But as a matter of fact, I myself, at the time of writing this, am in the top 10 ranking for Wii Any% and the current world record holder for the longest solo 1-star webisode on speedrun.com. And now you know the whole reason my title is the way it is. So today, I'll be reviewing the iCarly Wii game, if not to do anything else but add to the weirdness I've already put towards this game. Carly, Sam, and Freddy are about to do a webisode of iCarly, but they are deciding on the last video to feature for the week. They decided on a video, but also brought Spencer, who suggests showing a Mr. Mango video he made, but the 3 don't remember seeing it. Right before the show, Freddy thought that the videos were deleting themselves, but that doesn't seem to be the case. After the show, they checked for the submitted videos, but still don't see Spencer's. Before their next show, all of the videos were deleted by something from the server, resulting in them having to do the show with no videos. Once the show is over, Freddy was able to get some of the videos back, but on his backup, he finds a video from Neville Papperman, saying that he will be sanitizing the internet of iCarly and rue the day. In the meantime, Freddy tries to work out the whole Neville situation, but an application called the Neville app was installed on his laptop and everything on his hard drive gets wiped and replaced with rue the day. Yes, you do hear rue a lot. This results in the crew having to do the entire show live. You've probably noticed a trend of Cass is about to go live, Neville does something to throw them off their game, Cass successfully works around it online, then tries to deal with the situation offline only to fail. This back and forth happens constantly, even to the point of Neville making simulation versions of Carly and Sam that will talk badly about their own show. However, they eventually do manage to hack into the simulation Neville program that was made and edit it so that it will stop Neville for them. And that's pretty much it. Kinda abrupt, but this story was honestly really hard to talk about because of how much of it is similarly repeated. It definitely feels like an iCarly episode though, which is surprising since, based on the credits, this game doesn't have any of the writers from the show. It's a very check-boxy story for iCarly. The trio do things normally until an unknown force interrupts them, who is then revealed as a known character. Since it's Neville, he repeatedly messes with them, with Freddy trying to deal with it and usually not succeeding. Carly gets upset at some point with her friends cheering her up, and then all of them deal with the situation, and then they all live happily ever after, until the next something goes wrong. There's even a brother and sister bonding moment after everything. If you were expecting something like this for an iCarly game, then you got what you expected. Not really much else to say. As you saw with the story section, all of the conversations are interpreted with this online group chat, which is a little weird when they are all in a room, but it's acting like someone is online or offline instead of them just being in a room or not. It only makes sense when talking to Neville or the simulation versions of characters since they are actually on a computer, but any other time they're actually talking to each other in person. However, I do feel like this is the better alternative to using the in-game models because the flattish cartoon models come off as creepy rather than quirky, which I'm assuming was not the intention. It's kinda like when Courage the Cowardly Dog used 3D, except here it's weird and creepy by accident. At the very least, everyone has their original actors for voiceovers and every bit of dialogue is also voiced, though there are only 5 characters, so take that as you will. They do just as good jobs as the show, which is to be expected. Though, now that I'm older, goodness, the script is
You'll rue the day!
Rue the day!
Roast moo!
Spew!
Flu!
Chew!
Glue!
Goo! No, you'll all rue the day!
yeah. Speaking of which, Carly and Sam give various different intros at the start screen of the game.
I'm Carly.
And I'm Sam.
And this is iCarly.
The show that puts the I in Phantasmic.
As for the areas you're in, they're alright, I guess. They do suitable jobs of recreating locations from the show, but that's kinda it. They're serviceable. The music is pretty much in the same vein, but most of it is ridiculously short due to how the gameplay is. Any track that isn't a loop that's about 10 seconds is actually pretty good. Unfortunately, aside from the main menu theme, you won't be hearing the other songs for that long unless you purposely sit down and listen to them. And given that the Wii OST isn't on YouTube, I had to do exactly that to get even usable music for this video. Also, there are two very clear references to the show, one of them being that menus and minigames start with the lowercase I, which at some point, I won't lie, got a little annoying, and the other being the classic transition between certain segments. Speaking of transitions, in the story mode, each show takes the form of a webisode, where you play 8 various minigames back to back. There are minigames where you catch falling objects, play a spaceship shooter game, bounce on trampolines. Okay, there's a lot of them, so I won't go into ridiculous amounts of detail on them. But most minigames have different versions of them, and pretty much all of them utilize motion controls. When playing these minigames, you can get up to 5 stars depending on how well you do in them. At the end of webisodes, your score between all of the minigames is calculated, and the total results in you getting a certain amount of web cred. Web cred is used at stores to purchase items. Said items can be placed in one of 4 environments that you can select and customize. Outside of the main story, you have emails that you can look at from fans, school, companies, etc. There are also other game modes, those being I Like Quick Play, where you can play minigames with up to 4 people, I Create Webisodes, which allow you to set up your own order for minigames, and I Break Records, where you attempt to get as long of a webisode run as possible. This game mode has 3 difficulties, where for each minigame, you have to get a particular amount of stars in order to keep going. Once you don't meet that requirement, the webisode run is over. There's a good amount of customization when it comes to the items you can put in the areas. The items you can buy are pretty diverse, allowing you to give whatever room you choose at least a bit of your own flair. Some objects can only be placed in certain spots. Some of the time this makes sense, like anything that is hung up on a wall, but other times I do wish I had complete accessibility to where I could place them. There are also some extras that come with the game, all of which being behind the scenes stuff and is actually pretty cool. Well, most of them. One of them is a staring contest and yeah, it's as awkward as you're probably thinking it is. There's stuff about how Miranda Cosgrove, Jeanette McCurdy, and Nathan Kress handled both acting for iCarly and school, the stuff inside their lockers for the show, and even the experience the 3 lookalikes had during the I Look Alike episode when it came to performing on the show is in this. Honestly, if I saw this when I was younger, I would have enjoyed it a lot. This game is incredibly boring. Even with the different variations for most minigames, since the game is nothing but these incredibly short minigames, it doesn't leave enough time for any fun to settle in before moving on to the next minigame. Any minigame that isn't over within 15 seconds usually results in you just waiting to move on, since there's no way to advance most of them quickly. Not to mention that during the story, there are also these random alert things that always take 5 seconds to complete. They don't add any score at the end, and the webisode doesn't end if you fail them, so they pretty much do nothing but waste your time. It makes more sense to call these loading screens than minigames, but even then, the actual load screens are almost instant. And honestly, the normal minigames are like this too. I even decided to do an experiment and see if you could beat webisodes without doing anything. I just sat back, let a webisode play out while eating dinner and watching a Hungry Box livestream. By the end of the webisode, I had succeeded. Now, it is possible to fail a webisode without doing anything, but I believe that you have to get at least 1 star in order to move on, so theoretically, you can beat the whole game with no inputs outside of menuing with the right luck. Another thing that feels pointless is that custom webisodes don't give you any web cred. This means you have no incentive to do these. Sure, there's a few unique minigames for this, but given the rest of the game, are you really going to play the game any further than you already have? I know that I speedran this game once and did a marathon for the I Break Record mode, so I have no right to be saying that, but let's ignore that. There's no reason to play this game mode. The letters that are given are mostly pointless. The mandatory letters have to be looked at before continuing on to another webisode, which only serves as a middleman step and doesn't apply to each webisode, so I kinda hate that they're even there in the first place. Any other letters do nothing but add pointless lore and requests from fans or stuff from companies that you can't do anything with. Maybe you could accept requests from fans and completing them during a webisode would get you extra web cred or get bonus web cred from companies for doing so well during webisodes. That would give incentive to actually do better at them. But the way that these are, they're just there. In case it's not obvious at this point, this game isn't good, like, at all. It's repetitive, a lot of it's pointless, and above all else, it's boring. I've definitely seen my fair share of this game, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, to put this in my bottom 10 license-based games ever. But at the same time, this is literally the content game. Because despite this game's flaws, or maybe even because of this game's flaws, it's got one of the most intensive speedruns with little time saves in it, an endless mode that if someone as crazy as me were to do, could allow for 24-hour or even longer streams, especially since co-op is a thing with it too, and modern day reviews for this game are a thing as well, even though that's only slowly happening, all of which occurring in the last year and some change alone. Is it a meme? Yes, but a lot has come from it. Not too many license-based games can really get that kind of infamy. Now, if you excuse me, I've got some iCarly to watch. What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. So number one, this video is probably a lot shorter than my most recent ones have been, and that's mainly because even though this game is actually like pretty bad, I don't really have too much to say about it. It's kind of just bad, and I guess we're just moving on from this point. But in terms of the revival for iCarly, I'm mainly wanting to hope that it is good, because it could very easily end up not being good. And that would suck, like, a lot. Now, would I do another iCarly game? If the demand for it's high enough, I suppose. But otherwise, I'm not planning on doing that. Basically, here's the deal. If this ends up being one of my most viewed videos, like, if it, for whatever reason, gets like 10k views in like 2 months or something, then fine. I'll do another iCarly game. But if it doesn't, I won't, and I'll be very content with that. But there's not much anything else to say, so if you haven't already, make sure you go down to the description below, because that's where all of my social media is located. My Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Discord are on the description, and there are all ways for you guys to be notified of another update I have for the channel, or for when another video comes out. My Patreon is also down there, and if you sub to that, you will be able to view upcoming videos a week earlier than everyone else on YouTube. And the minimum price that you have to pay is just $1 a month. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more, as well as share this video out with your friends and family. But until next video, take care.